Kick out at one. Kicked out at one.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to Kick Out at One, a wrestling adjacent podcast where we talk about anything and everything to do with wrestling in and about whatever we feel like talking about in that particular time, as long as it somehow relates to the wrestling world. I am the trained, unprofessional Vivian Jade, along with my co-host. He is forever lost, Mikey Wild, and today, our first ever interview on the show. Mikey, go ahead and give the intro for our esteemed guest, the first ever guest for this particular episode, episode 2.
To workshop that long ass ramble from now on for sure.
I gotta try.
Ladies and gentlemen, we have Ryan Kross on. Ryan, how you doing, my man?
I'm great, and it's good that you're starting with me because that's bottom of the barrel, so it's only up from here.
What's new in exciting these days? You got some shows coming up. I know that you're staying busy. What can you tell us about yourself that maybe people don't know? How long you been wrestling? How long were you bodybuilding? What you got coming up? What you doing?
I started wrestling in 2000. I trained originally under Rockin Randy, which is everybody in Chicago knows Rockin Randy. It was our first training camp was in Lake Barrington. We shared it with Ace Steel and Danny Dominion. Like we had different days. So I'm sure Punk and Cabana were there on like their days, and then Randy had his days and stuff. I came out of the same class as like Brandon Blaze. God, that might be it. That's the only one that's left of us. Casey James, that was with WWE. He was in, I think, the class right after me. But he was only with us maybe a year and a half, 2 years, and then he went to Tennessee and kind of carved out a name before going to OVW, signing with WWE. Had a short run with the Teacher's Pets with Michelle McCool and Aaron Stevens. Aaron Stevens is a tag team. Besides that, I've left Randy in like, end of 03, 04. I branched out with doing some like Tennessee bookings, and I got back into the Chicago area, and just been doing it ever since.
Have you really ever ventured living out of the Chicago area, or just working outside the Chicago area?
You mean for as far as like wrestling wise?
Yeah, were you living outside of the Chicago area and working?
No, I'm a border town, and actually that's a good segue into this next thing. So I was never really accepted by the Wisconsin indie scene because everyone hated Rockin Randy. Everyone. Like at the time, it was really just Carmine DeSpirito running Mid-American. Frank DeFalco hadn't started Brew City yet. He was actually working for Carmine. And then, I was considered a Chicago guy. No one would book me in the Wisconsin area because I was a Rockin Randy trainee. And then I went, even when I got out on my own, I did stuff here and there for little promotions in Wisconsin, but I was always considered a Chicago guy. I mean, to date right now, 38 states, Canada, Mexico, and Puerto Rico I've wrestled in. I've been running my own promotion, SSW, along with my partner RJ on that for probably 16 or 17. They were in business for 3 years before me, but then I think I've had the booking ability there for like 16 or 17 years.
Whereabouts do you run that? Is it just one area in particular, or are you all over?
Just Kenosha. Mikey's actually a big part of that. I think I booked you now last couple of shows, and I mean you're one of the first guys I called when I was going to book this one on October 8th. We got a big show coming up at the Brat Stop, which is just a few minutes from Mikey's house. Once again, being a border town, it's only like I would say 45 seconds from the interstate, I-94.
Yeah, it's perfect.
We got Max Caster from AEW coming in. We got the first Wisconsin indie appearance of WWE legend Tugboat and Typhoon and the Shockmaster. So,
Nice.
I'm so excited for that.
Mikey, it's crazy. So Max was a huge pickup for us. No one's spending the money to bring in that guy right now. He's quite the burden for, you could say, financially, but great guy. He draws a ton of people from that AEW crowd. Our fans are more conditioned for the legends. I mean, we've had Bushwhacker Luke, we've had Gangrel, we've had Al Snow, we've had Glacier, which was no one had ever thought of getting Glacier in this area. Who else have we had? Tito Santana, you know.
I think that's one of the things you do so well when it comes to business and marketing. What strategy has that always been a strategy of yours? Is bringing in the legends and then bringing in a newer as well to kind of draw all ends of the spectrum to the show?
Here's the problem that I've always run into. We used to be a monthly and every other month wrestling promotion. Obviously, right. You know that, Mikey. The problem is you would draw, or I would draw 200 to 250 people every month. No problem. I outdrew everybody in this little area out here, and I would do it consistently. The problem is I don't have a wrestling school like Bruce City or a Jimmy Blaze. So I don't have the ability to book 6 guys or 3 matches for free.
Right.
I've never had that ability. In the 16, 17 years that SSW has been around, no one, and I tell you no one, I challenge anybody on your podcast, the millions of listeners listening right now, I challenge anybody to find me someone who was never paid by SSW. We pay all our guys. I may be a cheap bastard, but I pay everybody. But the thing about it is like when you start putting people like Vic Capri, Marche Rocket, Rough Crossing, Mikey Wild, Yabo the Clown, yeah. You start booking guys that are like older, like indie name guys, they're going to cost you a lot of money and your budget goes up real quick. So in 2019, I decided, okay, here's what we're going to do. We're going to run 1 or 2 shows a year. We're going to bring in 1 legend, and we're going to bring in like 1 guy that can actually work a match. So a special appearance and then a match. And we're going to see what happens. We drew 600 plus people that night. We had Gangrel, Hornswoggle, and Al Snow. And then we had the next show that we did 580 people. And we had Bushwhacker Luke, Kevin Thorne, and Gangrel. Then the next one we did, I think we had Glacier, Tito, Mr. Kennedy, and Hornswoggle again, over 600. This last one, we had the Faces of Fear. So, I mean, the formula of making it an attraction that you can't miss, that's probably been our best thing. I would rather draw 580 to 600 people once or twice a year than draw 200 and not even break even every month.
No question. And in addition to those rising costs of the talent per show, you're having to spend the money to advertise per show and that many shows, and trying to make things different and interesting. It's an uphill battle, certainly. At this stage, do you get more invested and interested in the aspect of running the show, storylines, things like that, or do you still get just as much of a thrill as being in the ring?
I mean, the booking thing is not really, I mean, I just do that. Storylines, we try to create in-show storylines. Mm-hmm. Everything's a spot show. So you see these indie promotions that run these storylines week after week, and that's fine. If you have the same building every month, the same 180 fans come, you may vary 240, 270 on a good night, but the same 180 will always be there. You could do some storylines. Our stuff is all storyline based within the show. It's spot show booking. I'm going to toot my own horn here, but I learned to book under Burt Prentice from USA Championship Wrestling. Burt held positions with every single major federation, including Impact, WWE, WCW. So much talent went through Burt at USA Championship Wrestling, and we lost him to cancer, and it was I miss him all the time. We always stayed. He would send Christmas cards to my parents' house because that's the only address he had. And they were always like these glitter-filled, like Mickey Mouse Christmas ones. And my mom really looked forward to seeing those like every year, you know? as you know, Mikey, with Mama Wild and Mama Kross, like they're our biggest fans. So it's kind of fun when they placate to that. But yeah, I learned to book those spot shows. I learned so much, and he was carny, man. He was carny to. I mean, they probably paid for his funeral selling mystery bags. But I'll tell you a quick story. So he would do these mystery bags. They were just a black bag, and you get 5 autographs, and you could get a chance for like a Hall of Famer in them or whatever. You know, they were like the blind bags you'd get at Walmart to see which unicorn you get or whatever. So he would sell these useless 8x10s to guys like me for like $15, $20, and you get 5 of them. I swear there was never a Hall of Fame guy in there. If there was, it was Lawler, because he probably had to stack them at home.
Right.
And he probably knew the person. Like, I remember he would fold corners and stuff and go, "Hey, pick that one." You know, like he would tell certain people. So, but he would sell useless 8x10s for $25. You know, like
it's incredible,
man.
So I did that with the surplus of 8x10s I had at like a few shows ago. I had like, you could either get like Kevin Thorne, you could get Gangrel, you could Bushwhacker Luke, Elson, whoever it was, and I couldn't sell those for $10 an autograph. I put 2 of them in a blind bag to sell for $15, or 2 for $25. I don't have any 8x10s left. So
that you learn from the best then in that department.
Yep.
So circling back, because I digress so bad, I still like being in the ring. To be honest with you, it's fun to work other places because I don't have that stress. So
I think one thing that's changed recently, because you do have a partner regularly that you've been with, Jeff Luxon, which I would love for you to talk about, expound upon. But one change of pace in recent years has been more teaming with your son, Jordan Kross. I'm certainly going to get him in on the pod, but do talk about the differences of a close friend and being in there with your son.
So believe it or not, I've only teamed with Jordan one time.
Really?
In like his third match at Great America for Dave Hero, one of those big, Great America shows. We teamed together. We needed to be heels. I didn't know what to do with him because he looks like such a kid. So I'll send you a picture. I gave him I bought a Russian hat on Amazon and had my t-shirt guy make a USSR shirt that looked like the Nikolai Volkov LJN figure.
Nice.
And he was Comrade Kross. If that's not Burt Prentice or Rockin Randy coming through, like I don't know what is, right? Randy, hey brother, the kid looks like a baby face. Let's put him in a mask and call him a Japanese guy. That'll get heat. So, but we're actually teaming for the first time since then, August 27th for Raging Pro Wrestling in Green Bay.
Okay, very nice.
Yeah. I know Silas was doing the booking for them. I know he's on the shows. I don't know how much booking he does, but Rich brings in a lot of talent from over. I think he's got Matt Fitchett or Fichet. I don't know.
Fitchett, yeah. He's incredible. We just saw him at Impact, him and Davey Vega.
Yeah, I think they're both on the show. And he brings in like a Rohit and Jake something and a lot of those guys. So he brings in guys from all over. He's kind of got like the way I do things.
Right.
So we are teaming. We're taking on Wisconsin team Skits Jones, and actually we are teaming against my cousin. Like my actual real life cousin is Salem Crane out of Green Bay. So
nice.
and on October 8th at the Brat Stop, Jordan will take on Salem Crane one-on-one in the Family Feud match.
Nice. Steve Harvey as the guest referee.
That's certainly a guy who I wish got more exposure down by the Chicago area, Salem Crane. But him and his wife are both excellent people.
She's actually going to be making her singles match debut for us. She's done Royals and stuff. Right. She's actually trained out of Hornswoggle School there in ACW, so she will be there. And so that's going to be like 4 family members on one show. So I don't know if that'll happen again.
Now,
I wish I had like 6 more. I could be like some kind of carny circus and take my stuff on the road. You know?
the Partridge Family of Wrestling. Let's go.
Yeah.
So I'll throw a USSR hat on. We can go.
Yeah, right?
So you're also into bodybuilding for quite some time. Did you start bodybuilding before you got into wrestling? Was that something you were passionate about, or did you get into bodybuilding via wrestling?
You're asking all these questions that require these long drawn out answers. So
That's what you're here to talk, baby.
Yeah.
So tell you what, right now. So with everything, with everything in the world right now, where we don't disclude anybody, and can you imagine? I used to send my VHS tapes into WWE, and we used to get letters back that if you were not 6'2" and 225 pounds or more, please do not send any VHS tapes until further notice. They literally told us, do not send just your tapes. So of course I think I'm 6'1", so I ran out and got like another inch put on my boot. Right. So that I was like 6'2", and I did make the weight requirement at the time. When I first started with Randy, I was in college. I was 176 pounds, and he made me a referee. Like I trained for like a year, and the best I could hope for is a referee, and that somebody would not show up, because then maybe I might get the battle royal. I was the Wisconsin Chicken for a long time. I was Jacques Rougeau Jr., the Mountie, for a very long time. Those pictures are still floating. Tweak and Dash Phoenix, the Phoenix twins, they still have a ton of pictures of me as the Mountie. I had a 6-foot stuffed bear that was like mounted to a piece of wood that I would take to the ring with me. I was Los Conquistador number 2. Me and Eric Priest were the Conquistadors, former WWE superstars. I had to put on weight, and I had to get over 200 pounds. And to think about wrestling now and where my son is and where the people that he's wrestling with and the people who are getting a lot of exposure, those guys would never have been taken seriously. Never back then. And I'm glad. I mean, I used to hate it, and I used to hate the skinnies. You know, I mean, Mikey, you probably heard me going off in a locker room or something. But I understand it's a changing times, and it's better. I think it's better overall. Wrestling is for everybody, I guess, now. I mean, I wish some guys would stick to like bowling on Saturday nights, but that's just my own opinion. So bodybuilding came because I had to be in shape for wrestling. I had to put on size. In 2009, I did my first bodybuilding show. So 9 years after I started wrestling.
Oh, wow.
And then I got bit by the bug. I took like 9th out of 11 guys, and it was absolutely horrible. I was so embarrassed. I decided to dedicate everything in my career at that time, changed to personal training. I dedicate everything. My next show in 2010, I won the Mr. Wisconsin light heavyweight class. I went to California, won multiple shows in California Grand Prix of bodybuilding. I won the Venice Beach Pro-Am. Both of those shows were held on the Muscle Beach stage, like right behind where like the workout is on the boardwalk there. 2015 was my last show. I won the novice the novice heavyweight, the novice overall, and the open heavyweight. And I lost the overall open to a guy who ended up becoming a top level pro. So, but we had a lot of fun. I'm still kicking around the idea to get back on the stage and do it. Just a lot of time commitment, a lot of dieting. I'm probably not the nicest person. I'm not the nicest person anyway. So you just add cranky dieting on it. So I know someone's listening within earshot right now who's probably making a face right now, which is my significant other. So
we'll certainly tell her we say hi.
Yeah.
Okay. But it helped though, Mikey. It helped being a bodybuilder because it helped and it actually hindered me. And you guys will find this interesting. So the bigger I got, I think like when I was with Pro Wrestling Blitz in 2015, I started dieting for my bodybuilding show. I was 292 pounds and I wasn't fat. I was 292 pounds. But the problem was I would get thrown into matches with Jay Bradley's. I would get thrown into matches with Beer City Bruisers. I would get thrown into these matches where it's like, hey guys, go beat each other up for 8 minutes. You guys both tumble out of the ring and battle back to the back, double DQ. And I think, Mikey, it kind of hindered, or I would say it stopped my ability to grow as a wrestler. I stopped being able to remember so much in the ring because it was just brawling. It was just, honestly, that's all we did. And I'm starting, and Jeff Luxon, my partner going into that, he's really helped me. We started teaming, I think, in 2011. 2011. Yeah. He's really helped me come back out of that because I was the biggest guy in the locker room for a long time. There's still locker rooms I am. I'm 6'1", I'm 255 pounds, and I work out every day, but it just it did stop a lot of that ability. It's like, Mikey, I was going to bring this up. People ask me a lot why I stopped working for Rockin Randy. And he was running twice a month, 3 times a month. And I gave that up. And the reason why was because I wasn't getting any better. I was wrestling with the guys that I trained with. I was wrestling the same matches with the Matt Longtimes and the Adrian Lynches. And did you go through that when you were at POW? Did you kind of just feel like you were shoehorned into like one style of match and that's all you could do?
Not in particular. We had a versatile group like a Scott Spade, who's so old school. I had Kanoa and Cairo to work with, who loved doing the ROH Japanese stuff. Crossing, I could work a big man, small man with. So I was still so new, and there was an eclectic group. Guys that would plan things out, guys that would call it on the fly, guys that just wanted to brawl, guys that didn't want you to throw a single punch. That it was just an amalgamation of learn. But then it did become a time where it's like, I'm getting other people better, certainly, but I'm not getting any better. And as much as I love you guys, if I'm going to make myself better, make more money, and sell more merch, I have to get better. And we have to bring in other people, or I have to go somewhere else. So I completely understand that.
And I did that, and it was very frowned upon back in like 02, 03. Like, if you were a Randy guy, you were a Randy guy. And I remember going to PCW. I remember going to Classic Championship Wrestling for Jimmy when he first branched off on his own. God, I think I worked like the first 4, 5, 6, 7 shows for Jimmy when he was first on his own with Dave Storm. And, I just had to experience working different guys. And that's when I really got better. I started working in Nashville for Bert. Bert was so kind, and I always talk about it. I said, when nobody took me seriously, he made me a champion. He gave me the Southern States Championship, which I knew what it was. It was just the belt to hold, but he gave it to me. He liked my look. He gave me a character. I walked into his office at the TV studios, and he said, "What's your name? Your wrestling name?" I said, "Joey B." He goes, "Ugh, that's awful. Where'd you come up with that?" I go, "It's my real name." Oh, so he sat there, and then he looked at me and he said, "Why are you staring at the floor?" I said, "I'm nervous." He goes, "You look at me in the eyes, boy, because you are stunningly gorgeous, and I'm going to build a territory around you." Now, little did I know that he had told everybody that he was going to build a territory around. So that was like his I got him. So he came up with the name. He came up with Ryan Kross. I didn't. Jericho was still using Y2J. Mm-hmm. So he wanted something to play off of that. So he called me Ravishing Ryan Kross, which was 2 R's and a K. So he said, they'll call you R2K, but because I'm managing you, they'll call you R2 Gay to make fun of you. And I said, okay. And he ran with that. And I did I guess I wouldn't say I was a Adrian Street. I did more of like a Rick Rude. And he was doing his character from the old USWA as Christopher Love. He had he bought me robes and stuff and boas, and I mean that was my character. I mean, I owe everything. I owe all that to him. And he put me in matches with a young Eric Young, with a Prince Justice who ended up becoming Abyss. He got me on the TNA Explosion, the syndicated show that was filmed down there at the fairgrounds. If you remember, they had like a syndicated show that would run between the pay-per-views. He brought me in to work all the Wild Side guys because Bill Behrens was bringing a car full of guys every show. So it was like Crew Jones. Remember Crew? Yeah. Crew Jones and like his group and stuff. And everything I ever accomplished up until a certain point, like it was all Bert. Like I will always be respectful and I will always have a love for Randy, but I didn't I learned how to bump. You'll understand this. I learned how to bump with Randy. I became a worker in Tennessee. I would stay with Kenny Wayne, one half of the Nightmares. His partner was Danny Davis back in the days, and we would sit in his trailer, and we'd watch old videos, and we watch old matches and old promos, and it was phenomenal, man. It was just, I learned how to, from throwing a short arm punch to opening wide up and taking a chop and doing the 2 seconds, and I mean, it was just everything, all this little stuff that was big in the South that nobody cared about in Chicago, because they just wanted to see how hard you could hit, the strong style stuff,
I definitely learned that working down in Tennessee. I was younger, so I still was just trying to blow people up and get my spots in, just to realize no one gave a fuck. But
you guys all went down and worked for Porter, right? Forsaken got you guys booked on that NWA main event. Yeah. So he actually hated Bert. Like, that was like a big rivalry.
Really?
Yeah. So Porter and Bert were like enemies. Everybody used to say that, did Bert hit on you? I said, yeah, you just got used to it.
Right.
He just, and it was funny because him and Bill Behrens and Bob Ryder, and then there was one more, but I used to call them the gaggle of gay, because they would come around and they all fight like girls, and it was so funny. And they were all such great guys. And like Porter, he kind of got in at the end, but that NWA main event, I remember the building that they ran, and I know Forsaken, I think, was their booker, and you guys were pretty close to Forsaken there. Yep.
Yeah, Rick got us in there. And then we ran some with Shane Morton down there as well. But man, even the stark difference between a spot crowd and a cat and mouse crowd, a Memphis crowd, is jarring. And man, is it so nice to have those paydays where I just got to run around the ring, pull out my fist. Oh, those are the fun ones.
I still tell people, like, those days, like, I remember working Big Bully Douglas, and I think he said, I put him in a headlock, and he goes, "Damn, kid, this ain't the UFC, lighten up." I whispered, I go, "It's a headlock, it's too damn tight."
Was there a point in time that you feel like you can mark off where, like, I either, one, did my best work here, or two, had the most fun here?
Damn, that was a complicated question.
Because I still struggle with that myself. Like, I think I had the most fun when I was with CJ doing the threat level black stuff. But then I think of how much fun I had doing other stuff. But I think also with my street fights with CJ and Tyler. But then different matches I've had. Like, I've never had a certain area where I could just say, guys, this period of time, that was me. It seems like I've just been all over the place.
I think the most I accomplished was like when TNA. So when WCW went under and TNA was doing their pay-per-views every Tuesday. Yeah, I was doing their syndicated show. We'd film 4 episodes down there. I would just be a job guy on 2 of them. So I did that in Tennessee, and then I worked the Mid-South Coliseum like 4 times. That was. The building's not even in use anymore. And it was the site for like the Andy Kaufman versus Jerry Lawler match. And there's not many guys in this area that can say they wrestled there. No. Honestly, in this area, I think it's like me and Steve Boz, because Boz came down and worked me and Lethal Lee. Sure. If you remember him. Yep. Me and Lee had some epic battles with the Naturals, Andy Douglas and Chase Stevens in Tennessee. So I don't know if it was the most fun I had, but the most learning and the most I accomplished, I feel, was in Tennessee. When that run came to an end and I just didn't want to drive there anymore, in the early 2011, when me and Jeff first teamed, we formed like our version of the Clique with Paulie Tomaselli, Dave Rydell, Backwoods Brown, and we helped each other get bookings. We didn't go anywhere. If you saw one of us, you saw all of us. Nobody really ever talked trash, because I used to have the reputation to fight people all the time. So I never fought anybody. Don't tell me, I never fought anybody, but everybody thought I was going to kill them. I smartened people up in the ring a little bit, but I wasn't going to. I never got into like a fist fight, but there was all kinds of rumors about me. And I mean, I would do stuff, you know, I pulled a gun on a tag team one time and said, if you don't go for the finish, I'm going to shoot one of you. And like, it was a joke. It was a joke. It wasn't, but I didn't mean it to be like serious.
Wrestling, those stories can travel quick and be distorted rather wildly. So
it's people still come up to me and say, did you really pull a gun on so-and-so? I go, yes. But yes, I would say the most fun I had was Tennessee, where I learned the most. Well, no, where I learned the most and where I accomplished the most was Tennessee, but I had a great deal of fun. But being up here with my buddies, to be honest with you, the most fun I'm having right now, and this is from the bottom of my heart, 100%, is watching Jordan succeed. I mean, I was on Monday Night Raw as an EMT a few weeks ago, or 2 months ago now in June. I don't know if you saw that, right?
Yeah.
Okay. So I was at EMT for the Cody Rhodes segment after, and I was backstage at Hell in a Cell doing extra work. And so everyone calls me, hey man, I saw you on TV, the EMT, oh, this is awesome. 2 weeks later, Jordan gets a call to go to AEW and ends up working a dark match against Hobbs and Starks. And I think that was the first time ever. I mean, I had people tell me it was the first time ever that a father and son appeared on opposing wrestling companies since Dustin and Dusty did it.
Wow.
And never in the history of AEW. I mean, people are like, oh yeah, the Guns are there. I said, the Guns are on the same show, not opposite companies.
Holy, that's really cool.
So, I mean,
really cool.
I mean, after wrestling 22 years, you've seen everything, or 20 years that you've seen everything. And then all of a sudden something like that happens. You're like, holy shit. Wow. You know?
Right.
Yeah.
So, and I got the backstage stuff because Kenny Dykstra is now the head of the extra talent. And if you remember Kenny, Kenny was an OVW guy that when I worked with Kenny Wayne in Tennessee, he called Danny Davis and said, I got this great looking kid, jacked, come have him do job matches. So I was going to Ohio Valley trying to work my way into a contract for almost a year and a half. And all I would do is work the house shows. I would do like a little 5-minute match, do like the job there. Then I would help out at the live shows that were taped for WWE because of the OVW thing. So I was there with Kenny and Ziggler and Johnny Jeter, Aaron Stevens. I was there with all those guys, and they all knew me. And then, you know, John Laryngitis came down and he, it was me and Robbie Dower were the last two that were at OVW with Cornette. And Robbie was doing backstage, and I was doing, we were the last two, like, Chicago guys. He was from Windy City. They brought us both in and said, hey, kids, you can't get hurt here because this is a company, so we're going to have to let you go. So, like, and then we weren't able to come down and do jobs anymore. So, but Kenny reached out to me, and he's like, hey, man, are you still working? Are you in good shape? I was like, yeah, I'm good shape. But he's like, well, come on down for this. So he booked me, and watching Jordan do this stuff, and you know, like you just saw him at Impact and AEW, and a few weeks before the AEW, he was doing the Young Boys stuff with Vic Capri at New Japan's pay-per-view. I mean, that's the most fun I have now, is watching him succeed. So.
And I've known the kid for so long, so every time he gets excited, I love. And for those of you who might be thinking, oh, it's his son, of course he's going to put him over, I have a car full of guys I'm going to be taking down to Spartan Wrestling, Alabama, September 17th. Myself and Tyler are doing a tag team now. There are two people I reached out to. One person who, if I can get him in a car just to pick his brain, I will, Vic Capri. And the next person was, who is the one person I would want to be in a car with who could use the experience, and I would be proud to say I got him on a show, and I got a hold of Jordan. He's unable to make the show, but he was the second guy I contacted because I love spending time with him, and I love seeing him take advantage of the opportunities he has. So we will have him on, but guys, be sure to check him out as well.
Yeah.
And he's done everything the right way. Like I did him no favors, right, Mike? I mean,
not at all.
I've been a jerk for 90% of my career. You know, I have my group of guys that I chum around with, and I don't venture outside of that group. And you know, he was going to Warrior Wrestling and doing all this stuff for them, and he started befriending people. One night, I called him. And I said, I wanted to know what time he was going to be home. And I go, oh, who's this? This is Rosa. Rosa, and I'm like, oh, Rosa, that's Thunder Rosa. Nice to, oh, I'm with Jordan. And then, hold on, I give you the phone. And so I'm thinking I'm talking to Jordan. It's Mercedes Martinez. She takes the phone and I'm like, okay, guys, I get it. Okay, cool.
Yeah.
But I mean, it's been one thing after another. And Silas has called me a couple times and said, dude, your kid's doing great. Yeah. Dave Hero just called me and said, the reason why Jordan got to do the bringing the gear back and forth on the Impact stuff was because he looked professional. His hair was done. He was wearing a nice polo shirt. He wasn't covered in tattoos. He looked like that could be his job, Yeah. And I mean, guys are always calling me and putting him over, and he's real respectful. And he, even when I try to goad him into saying stuff like, "Hey, man, this guy sucks, huh?" And he's like, "No, he's all right. He's cool." I'm like,
yeah,
okay.
He's young and carries himself much more older than he is in terms of presentation. He's very respectful. And anywhere you see him, he belongs there. You're not like, what is this kid doing there? Or you talk to him and go, he doesn't belong. He opens his mouth when he knows it's opportune to open his mouth, and then just takes in information, and he gets himself over by looking and carrying himself in such a professional way, and then just keeps getting sneaky better and better. Like, I remember when I was working with him, and I'm like, for the love of God, Jordan. And then it would be just 2 months, and he's doing something. I'm like, where the fuck did you even learn that? Well, I saw it, and I was watching, I was taking notes, and then I asked somebody, it's like, oh, that's exactly what you should do, man. Keep quiet, ask questions, and learn.
He drove all the way to Berwyn when Sean Dean was doing a camp there for Ego. He drove all the way to Berwyn. Sean wasn't even doing a camp. He was just working the show. And he comes in and he hands him his resume. And he said, I just want to drop this off. I'm not working the show, but I just wanted to drop this off. And he's like, well, you already got over with me. And Glacier was the one that gave him, I sent Glacier a happy birthday text a few years ago, and it took him like 4 days to get back to me. Jordan sends one, and 30 seconds later, hey, kid, thanks so much. I appreciate it. And I love it, but I also paid you the money when you came in. But he makes these friends, man. And, these are guys that he probably paid to meet at StarCast at one point 5 years ago. And now he's I'm not going to say friends because I use that word loosely in the business, but he's respected by them enough. And,
certainly.
I was able, to befriend Road Warrior Animal, and we were very close and had many of conversations. And I brought him in to a lot of events and helped him with other stuff. And I know what it's like to have one of your heroes, call you on the phone and say, hey, man, what's going on? And usually with Animal, it ended up with, hey, I'm out of protein. Can you send me a tub of protein? But because I owned a supplement store at the time, so I was always sending him something. But for Jordan, it's great, man. It's like, Joe Doring walked right up to him at Impact, started talking to him. He's a friend of mine and Jeff's, very close. I mean, obviously you were there when Jeff was, when he came and worked for Powell for a couple times. But it just, everyone puts him over, similar to what you're doing, and it just means so much. I love hearing it. So this is like, Rocky Balboa said to his son, like having a kid's like being born again, and you don't understand the statement until you see your kid trying to do what you did. For the first 12 years of my career, my kid could have cared less about what I did. Like wrestling was just wrestling, and then all of a sudden he started coming to shows, and then he wanted to get trained. And there's very few schools out there now, and he went to different schools and learned this and learned that. And then, like you said, he got sneaky good. Like he does he reversed he got set off by Ricky Starks, and he did that drop to one knee to reverse it.
Yeah.
And I go, what's that? Like, I don't know. I didn't teach him that,
Right.
So. But no, it really is the best time right now to be a part of it.
So one big question I have, because I know a lot of us are very much the same. You were a fan of someone when you were watching, but then you appreciated someone else once you started working, that you may not have realized how good they were. Like for me personally, Jeff Jarrett was one of those where I could give a shit about Jeff Jarrett. He drove me crazy. I hated him. And then when I started working and met the guy, it helps when you get paid by him too. But he is a sweetheart of a man, and you realize, holy shit, he's good at literally everything. But do you have someone like that for you that maybe you were watching, you're like, they're awesome, and then, man, they're not so awesome, and then someone else that you're like, oh, wow, they are awesome, and I didn't know.
I grew up, in the 80s when wrestling had larger than life characters. So I love Bruce Beefcake. What kid didn't love Bruce Beefcake? Yeah. And you realize you get around him and you're like, God, this guy sucks and he's horrible and not even a nice person.
Yeah.
And then you see guys that were like, Mr. Perfect, who I could have cared less about Mr. Perfect. He was a boring guy with the blonde hair that, wrestled in a singlet and did nothing fancy, but now you watch his work and he could have hung with anybody. I mean, and everybody respects him. I mean, Eric Bischoff will start crying when he starts talking about him because he misses him so much. And guys like that, Perfect. Rick Martel was another one.
Yes, that's a very big one.
That model gimmick is, I loved Jacques Rougeau growing up. That was like one of my favorite guys, and he is a difficult guy to get along with. But if you watch him in the ring, he made the most of everything he ever did. No question. So, yeah.
Do you still have an all-time favorite wrestler and an all-time favorite tag team?
The tag team obviously is the Legion of Doom.
Yeah.
Because we had similar movesets: punch, kick, body slam. No, I love them growing up, the Road Warriors. And then as far as a singles wrestler, I would. As a kid, it changed, and now it's like going back. Rick Martel, Jacques Rougeau, Paul Roma did everything right. I know everyone's going to get on me right now and say, oh, Kross likes Roma because he was a body guy. Well, yeah, he was a body guy, but he worked his way up from being a job guy in like 86 to being a top level tag team with Hercules, and then becoming, one of the members of the Four Horsemen. It wasn't his fault that he shouldn't have been there, but It was just, it's, watching guys like that to do everything right, do everything smart. Like, I was never a Warrior fan. I didn't really like Hogan. I always thought it sucked because he came in and like won all the Royal Rumbles and stuff. So
to touch on Paul Roma, one of my favorite tag teams are up there is Power and Glory. I absolutely loved Power and Glory.
Amazing.
I was probably one of the few people that was excited about Paul Roma being a horseman. And then, yes, you realize he didn't fit personality-wise, but work-wise, he fit. Hey, watching him and Anderson tag together, outstanding. And for those who know Rick Martel primarily as the model, watch him in the AWA and then even go into 98 WCW. He had an awesome run there,
So Martel's match against Stan Hansen at Comiskey, just amazing. You talk about two guys contrasting styles. I mean, as far as Power and Glory, yes, one of my favorite tag teams at that time.
And the finisher,
yeah, the super
Powerplex,
Powerplex. But watching him and Paul Orndorff.
Oh, yeah.
Pretty wonderful. In WCW, 93, 92, like, they were fantastic.
I thought that was his bread and butter there in WCW.
Yep. And that's kind of why he got that Horseman gig, I think, was because of the fact that he did so well in that group, and with in that tag team. So,
Viv, you have anything for Mr. Kross here? I have been talking the whole time.
Y'all have been covering everything.
Well, she's doing exactly what like everyone does when two wrestlers get in a room and just listens to us tell stories. Like, I feel so bad. Like,
it was all good. I was having a great time listening. I was doing what I imagined the listeners are doing, just having a great time listening to you guys. It was an enthralling conversation. I didn't want to interrupt at any point.
Some of the most fun for me, and I'm sure Kross, you can attest to this, is just being backstage and being fools, shooting videos and purposely trying to make each other laugh during promos. Like, those are the most fun we have.
Yeah.
I probably would have been arrested about 450 times by now. Cell phones had video cameras in like early 2000s. Like
Oh,
there was,
man.
there was some smelly car rides to North Carolina, to Alabama, Huntsville, Alabama. I remember Bert booking a show at in Talladega, right? Like right down in Huntsville, Alabama. It was like 3 or 4 miles from Talladega. Dusty Rhodes, Terry Taylor. I worked Terry Taylor. I fell out of the ring. I went to the top rope and got nervous when he looked up at me, and I fell backwards out of like onto the outside. And luckily, there was only like 40 people there. And Dusty Rhodes gets to the building and goes, "Bert, you dumbass, you booked against Talladega the race?" He goes, "I don't know anything about no NASCAR." I mean, you booked a wrestling show the same night, same time as Talladega?
Oh, man.
And that was the night was, "Don't worry, kid, everybody gets paid." And I said, "Okay, well, I said, I'll take my envelope." And he handed it to me. It was thick. I was like, man, he must have been really happy, even though I fell out of the ring. And it was 10 singles. So. He was also good for putting a 5 on each side or a 5 and then rolling up like, 20 singles in the middle and then, acting like he just gave you $1,000. So
right. Carney. Love it.
Oh, yeah. Man.
Hijinks. So I still wear hot stuff in the ring. Vivian, you don't know what that is, but it's a vasodilator. So you put it on, it turns you like almost like a reddish color. And it brings all your veins to the surface. It opens up all your pathways, like to get more blood into your muscles. So you kind of take on this, like you get more veiny, you get a harder look, kind of like Hogan used it a lot. You get that deep color. Some people are highly allergic to it, and it doesn't feel pleasant. It burns. That's why it's called hot stuff. It burns. So for a while, I used to put it like on the inside of my like arm in there, and then I would put guys in headlocks, and I'd rub it all into their cheeks and like their nose and their nose. And then I'd say, "Oh, sorry, that's the hot stuff, kid," But I did that to Al Snow by accident. I just wore it at a show, and he got so mad. And to this day, he still yells at me about you still wearing that hot stuff? But like, I put it in guys like underwear and stuff in the back. I mean, hiding stuff in the locker room. Like Mikey said, there's just hijinks. I think because there was less feds back in the days, I think that some of those hijinks aren't. I think some of the camaraderie isn't there that it used to be, because you go in a locker room, you might only know 4 or 5 guys. There was a time that you walked into a locker room, you knew every single guy in there. Yeah. It's changed a lot. But you know what though? A few years ago, I went to see Jordan wrestle at POW, and he was teaming with Derek St. Holmes against Spade and Crossing. And it was at a little bar called Rumple's in Twin Lakes. Right. So I went in the locker room, and so many guys came up to me and said, "Hey man, did you watch my match? Did you?" I'm like, "Wow." Tyler Sunday. Is it Taylor or Tyler?
Tyler Sullivan now. He's a big boy.
Yeah. So Tyler was asking me about something. I said, "Tyler, why do you have to take a 2 count on everything?" He goes, "What do you mean?" I go, "Every time someone does something, you take a 2 count. You get kicked to the ground, you take a 2 count." I said, "There's nothing wrong with kicking out before the ref even gets down."
Right.
I said, "You're supposed to be the sadistic madman. Do it, And he like came up to me after I told him that. He came back up to me and he said, "Hey man, thanks so much. I really appreciate that. And I get exactly what you're talking about." So, that's fun when guys are still listening and wanting to learn and stuff like that. But, those Foley brothers, Morgan and the pit stand guy. Oh, yeah. Ryan. I think they do I think they do a lot of great moves, but that's it. I told him, I said, "Guys, you do some fantastic stuff, some tag team stuff that I might even steal with Jeff and stuff, but you're both 145 pounds and, your look's okay, but you gotta, you can't just do moves. You look like you're on No Mercy for N64. You lock up and do a pile driver,
Right.
So. Yeah. And they listened, and it's good. It's I've been humbled a lot of times. I remember working a program with Chase McCoy and Dysfunction, and it was my first time in a match.
Is that when they were Insane Evil?
Yes.
They were tagging? Yeah.
Yep. And I think we worked them for Jimmy one time, and I walked right up to Dysfunction. I said, "You try any of that hardcore shit?" And I said, "I'll break your neck." And he goes, "Oh, no, we don't do that. We don't, you know." And I had to make a statement like, "Hey, man, don't cut me. Don't do none of that stuff." And some of our best matches as a tag team, me and Jeff had, were against Jason and Dis. They're great. You know, it was just sometimes you judge a book by its cover, and it's not the right thing to do, but that's in human nature. And I've been wrong a lot of times, and it's pleasantly surprising when you are, you know?
Yeah, absolutely.
You said you worked in so many different states, and excluding the ones that are around the Great Lakes area that you're so familiar with, because that's your home territory. What would you say is hotly debated, the best wrestling territory, excluding the one that you're most familiar with, because that would be the heavily biased area?
Tennessee, they take this stuff real seriously. It's like religion to them. Like going to wrestling is like going to church. So you could do a headlock takedown and people will stand on their feet. I did a show where it was Jerry Lawler against Superstar Bill Dundee in the main event. And there was 3,000 people. The building couldn't fit anybody else. Special guest referee was Terry Funk. You put those three guys in a building in Chicago, you draw 800 people, 600, 500, you know, it's a different ball game down there. The most beautiful place I ever wrestled was NWA Hawaii. I actually wrestled in Hawaii. I was there for something else, and I was able to get a booking. Randy did help me get that one, so I was able to cross that off my list. North Carolina, we drew some huge crowds for these charity shows. I wrestled the former WWE superstar, The Patriot, Danny Dominion.
Yeah.
And we had some great matches. We had some awesome matches. Texas, I wrestled it on a black canvas in the middle of Plano, Texas. That was probably 250 degrees. I remember taking a snapmare, and I sat down and my butt started burning. And as I came up, my spandex was like melted off of like 2 spots on my butt because it was so hot. And that's where I got to meet Sick Nick Mondo, who was so cool, you know, and then he fell out of the ring because the top rope snapped. That he was trying to do some crazy like move, you know, and
right.
The top rope snap. But I would say Tennessee was one of obviously one of the places closest to my heart. Hawaii was probably the most beautiful. New York was probably the meanest. Where else? Philly was horrible, absolutely horrible. So, they're just dirty people. Like, I'm sorry. We live in Philly. Hey, I was happy to see the Rocky statue. I should have just left after I saw that, but instead I wrestled.
Well, before we get you out of here, let's pub that show one more time, and where can we find you?
All right. So October 8th. Live from the legendary Brat Stop in Kenosha, Wisconsin, we will be returning with They're Here, featuring WWE superstar and legend Tugboat / Typhoon / the Shockmaster, and AEW superstar Platinum Max Caster of the Acclaimed. We also have one other AEW star that will be in attendance that I am going to announce when ticket sales slow down. We are currently sold out of VIP. We are sold out of front row, and we have general admission left. You can get tickets at www.snssupershow.com or go to SSW Entertainment on Facebook, and that will get you to wherever you need to go. So, and you can see myself, you can see Jordan Kross, you can see Forever Lost Mikey Wild in a battle at the state line where it's going to be Mikey representing the state of Illinois versus 3 hard hitters from the state of Wisconsin.
Let's go. Do you have a Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, anything we can plug that can follow you?
Instagram, you can find me at sports, the letter N, and signings. That's SNS, sports and signings. And that has all the information with wrestling and other things that we have there. As far as Facebook, I don't use it personally, but you can go to SSW Entertainment, and that'll have everything there. So otherwise, if you can call me if you want.
Well, my friend, thank you. I mean, I hit you up over the weekend because I knew I wanted to get you and I wanted to get Jordan on the show, and you immediately yeah, let's do it. So the first actual interview, and thank you so much for on short notice being able to come on. And
no, man, you're one of the few guys, Mikey, that like when I text you, you text me right back. You do not respond to Facebook messages very quickly, or you didn't, before.
For the longest time, I would just take my social media off because it's so toxic that like it doesn't add unless I'm promoting something and didn't add anything to my life.
Same thing here. I actually sent Scott Beatty a message and said, please tell Mikey Wild to get in touch with me.
Yeah.
But you know what, man? I've told you before, man. I see your mom around town, so I live in the same town, I think, as she does, right? She's in Kenosha.
Oh, my sister and my nephews are in Kenosha, so she's there a lot.
She's there a lot. So I'll see her at the grocery store. I'll see her at the hospital. I'll see her somewhere, and she always comes up and gives me a big hug. You know who I am, right? I go, you're Mama Wild. Stop asking me. You. Yeah, she always says, she's like, you know who I am, right? I go, Mama Wild, yes. So she's absolutely awesome. She reminds me of my own mom. We both have strong mothers in our lives, and we have good families and nephews and nieces, and so you're one of the guys that when you reach out to me, I'll reach back real quick. So I can't say the same for a lot of people. So, but I love you, man. You. And I really appreciate being like I said, you guys have started at the absolute bottom of guests.
So
next
week, Scott Beatty gets on here.
Next week, when you guys bring in like Mortimer the pig, who won the blue ribbon at the state fair, you're like, man, that pig was so much better than Ryan Kross.
Well, I love you. Thank you so much. Right, if you got anything,
and thank you very much for being on here. It was an absolute blast listening to you and talking with you. It was very informative. I really had an absolute blast of a time. And all the links for all of your stuff will be in the description. I look forward to talking to you again, hopefully soon. I had an absolute blast of a time. Thank you so much.
Vivian, can you so there's me, there's Mikey, there's you, right? So can you do this with like 8 people?
You could
invite as many people as you want, right?
Theoretically,
yeah.
When you want to do like the after hours podcast, like where like all we do is talk shit and you just listen to all the wrestlers yelling and arguing and being absolute drama queens, then go ahead and Mikey can submit a list. I should be 2 or 3.
We already have a chat with the list of people, so
right. We'll have a list, and you can sit back there and moderate like an after-hour session. And you could really, if you thought this was a blast, just wait till you see like. When I know that nothing's going to hurt the reputation of my son, then I'll start throwing those haymakers at people like, dude, that guy sucked. Like, oh my God.
That would be so fun, man. I would absolutely love it.
Like some kid came up to me one time. He's like, hey, Kross, did you see my last match? I go, God, I hope so.
I hope so.
Brilliant. Guys, thanks so much. I appreciate it.
Yeah, I'll talk to you soon, brother. Thank you.
See you guys.
Bye.
See ya. All right, well, they both disconnected, so I guess I'm going to do the outro by myself. Thank you all very much for watching this episode of Kick Out at 1. Oh, no, Mikey came back.
Hey.
Hey.
I thought exiting out of his would it exited out of the whole group, so my bad.
No, it's okay.
I didn't mean to just completely take over.
It's okay.
So Viv, I appreciate you going on along for the ride there.
No, I had a blast.
I've known Ryan for so long, and I knew what to prompt for him.
No, it was great, man. I had fun. Not every conversation is going to be, 50-50. And besides, you guys were talking about some stuff that, it would be totally impossible for me to know everything you guys were talking about. There were names in there I've never heard of. So there were, and so I'm very glad you were able to pick up the slack I would have had. But No, I had a blast listening to you guys. It was greatly entertaining, and
he's a guy I definitely want to have on when we start doing different like roundtable stuff. Like, if we're gonna do WrestleMania lists or top tag teams, like stuff like that, a guy I would love to have on because it's a guy whose opinion I value greatly. So
yeah, absolutely. All right, everyone. Thank you all very much for tuning in for this episode of Kick Out at 1 with our interview with Ryan Kross. I had an absolute blast. I hope you did too. Thank you for pulling the whole entire weight of the show today, Mikey. That was
well, I think Ryan pulled the weight the hardest. I just threw out some bollocks questions there and prompted him.
you did fucking phenomenal. It was it was a joy to listen to, and I hope everyone enjoyed it.
The debut of my celery poster. So
yeah, absolutely. and the debut of the picture of my dog on my fridge.
Oh
yeah. So thank you all very much for watching on YouTube or listening on Podbean, or if it's, I don't know if this episode will be the one that debuts on all the other platforms.
It should be.
Yeah, we're hoping. We'll get it all figured out whenever we do. Hopefully it's this one.
If I can reiterate, guys, please follow, subscribe, and share. And if you can, follow our Instagram, follow our Twitter, follow our TikTok. And let's even boost my self-esteem every now and again. My Instagram, MKYXWLD, also the same on Twitter. That's where I do the majority of sharing all my clips. Myself and another gentleman will be having a tag team soon, so we'll be doing a lot more TikToks and stuff like that. But as of right now, just Twitter and Instagram are my jam. Mm-hmm. You feel free to find me. My Facebook is public. Feel free to request me. I may not accept it if I have no idea who you are, but if you shoot me a message with your request and let me know you listen to the pod, I will absolutely accept you. So don't worry.
All right. I'll update your runner to include a Facebook because I have the little runners. You notice those? Did you like that?
Yeah, okay,
yeah. Cool. Because
you did an incredible job implementing and embedding so many different things. Again, I tell people like I'm excited for when it does get put to audio. I was like, but you guys are really missing out on the video experience, especially like how animated Ryan is, like talking. I mean, I'm fairly animated myself. I'm just expressive. That's why I enjoy being face to face, like talking with you rather than just over audio, because I could get lost by suddenly looking at my spinning fan, and then if I have eye contact, I feel better. But
yeah.
And do we want to talk briefly about the Impact taping?
Sure. Yeah. We're already at an hour, so let's make it brief. But yeah, we went to the Impact tapings on August what the fuck was the date? It's Monday 13th? The 15th. So it would have been the 13th. Yes.
It was my parents' anniversary.
Oh, really?
It was.
I didn't know that. Well,
also a big thank you to Zicky Dice who threw us the tickets.
Yes. Thank you very much. It was
He'll be on the pod soon.
Yeah. That was my third ever wrestling show.
On rather short notice, because last time we chatted, these tickets weren't. I was just trying to get, because I mean, I love the dude. He's a very close friend. So I just wanted to get together with him when he got back in Chicago. And then he was like, yo, I don't know if I'll be able to hang out much, but you want tickets? I was like, sure, man. Appreciate it. Always happy to come watch you. I think the biggest takeaway for me from the Impact tapings is there is a gentleman by the name of Black Taurus.
Oh, yeah. Oh, my God.
Who is a Lucha Mantar.
Yeah.
He's incredible.
Mm-hmm.
Unbelievable. It was Laredo Kid, Trey Miguel, Black Taurus, and I forgot the other gentleman, but they put on a four-way that stole both sets of tapings. Absolutely unbelievable.
That episode, that was the match of the night. It was the first time I'd ever watched a wrestling match, and I apologize because I've also watched you wrestle live, and I apologize.
I know what I'm capable of. Calm down.
Okay, well, you were
not capable of, for that matter.
For the record, it's not just you that was in the ring. I believe you. I don't even remember if this is true or not. So it could have even happened, but I watched you wrestle, and you oh yeah, I had all that stuff. But I was also extremely tired when I watched you wrestle. So you got a lot of emotion out of me when I watched you wrestle too. So it was a lot. But when I watched that 4-way, that was the semi-main, I fucking like leaped to my feet out of pure instinct. It was one of those fucking matches where I left my seat out of pure emotional, just, oh my fucking God. Like, it was that kind of a match.
Yeah. And I, to touch upon that, I don't know how often you saw me and Joey Britton and I, we've been working for around the same time. So around 14, 15 years, he and I, we watch wrestling very different than fans watch wrestling.
I know.
And so I'm not as easily like, oh wow, that was awesome. Like, I'm not as captivated. I more critique things. I appreciate things, or we jumped off the bleachers multiple times and I was pumping my fist in the air. It was just, there were so many fuck yeah moments. Yeah. There was one moment where I want to say it was Laredo Kid who goes for a moonsault from the top rope, but the way he throws his body, it looks like he slips. And so we were scared, but no, he just does a different variation of the moonsault that's so pretty. Yeah. It's insane.
Yeah, man. There was so many moments watching that match where I was just like, holy fuck, holy, oh my God, what the fuck? And the thing is, right, is like, I don't watch Impact on a weekly basis. And usually, like, I can't keep up with weekly wrestling on TV. I would like to, at least for certain shows, but I say certain shows because 3 hours of Raw, at least before the Vince getting rightly kicked out thing happened, it just sounded like torture. And I don't even have mom time to bolster the reason. I have certain things in the way of me doing that. I don't have TV and yada yada fucking yada. Not the point.
I was gonna say, we get it. Come on, keep going.
Getting to it. Not knowing why these people are having their match. In a lot of these matches, I felt kind of hindered why I would give a fuck. And so there were a lot of matches on that show where I was like, oh, this is starting to get okay, it's done. And then, and then there were a lot of matches where it was like, okay. And okay. And then
one big thing about these types of matches too is you throw them together, so you're like, okay, it'll be a spot fest. So cool. But they sold just about everything. Black Taurus in particular, who was the big guy in the base for the match for the luchas, and he was taking bumps and he was selling hard. That's what made you appreciate the psychology of the match even more, because they weren't just popping up to do more cool stuff. They were selling, and desperation, they get something. You're like, oh, where'd that come from? Yeah. It was great.
Yeah, because so often you see, like, one of the biggest problems with small guy, big guy matches is that they forget one of the reasons why it's compelling to see flippy shit is flippy shit happens. Big guy is getting, oh shit, I finally catch you, beat the shit out of you, and all of a sudden, you can't do so much flippy shit because you're physically beating the shit out of, so you have to do less flippy shit, start working a different style, so you build up the stamina, you're building up, and then you do one more flurry of flippy shit, and then you can do it.
Yeah.
But that psychology gets lost when you all of a sudden you do flippy shit. Big guy catches you, beats the shit out of you, and then all of a sudden you're doing a top rope plancha out of the fucking whatever.
Right.
And it's like, what the fuck? You just got the shit kicked out of you. How the hell are you doing fucking top rope dives and flipping the fuck out? Like, if you just got power bombed, you are not jumping around and running around 2 seconds later. You don't have air to breathe unless you did not really get hurt. And then my believability is gone.
Exactly.
So the only way it makes sense, and that's why some of the best big man, little man matches were like Rey Mysterio and The Undertaker, because Rey Mysterio knew when to slow the fuck down. He would start the match going fast, then Undertaker would catch him and slow him down. And then he would work him down, and Undertaker would get chopped down by Mysterio, working him down with strikes, and he would not be running around doing it. He would be working him technical style, and then have one big flurry of fast shit later after he's built up fucking stamina again. Like, psychology.
And that's how wrestling works.
Yeah. If you explain the joke, it's funny.
No, but I mean, but that's why we have the podcast, is because like we're going to talk, guys, in the future, especially like when we break down like who like our favorites and stuff like that. It's stuff we'll get into because it's stuff like some people like don't care so much about psychology, but for me, I get taken out of matches with lack of psychology, or a lack of psychology of just moves in general. Because like you said, would you really be doing that if this happened, like X happened and Y happened? But that's a whole other discussion.
Yeah. Point is, the psychology was really good in that 4-way.
Over the weeks, I do want to give an attaboy to a couple different matches from WWE, that being Shinsuke Nakamura and Gunther. Even so much so that after the match ended, Shinsuke tweets strong style. They beat the shit out of one another.
Yeah.
And I loved it. And then also on main event, Ali against Donovan Dijak. Shit, what is his shitty name? What is his shitty
T-Bar.
name? T-Bar guy. I think it's Dijakovic as well in WWE. But yeah, Donovan Dijak, Prince Mustafa Ali, two incredible workers who don't get the opportunity to be incredible workers, and go out of your way to check out that match because they are. I'm a little biased as Mustafa Ali is a Chicago guy, and we've trained together and worked together, and he's a sweetheart of a man.
Yeah.
And Dijakovic is just unbelievable for a big guy.
Yeah.
Doing springboards at his size is unreal.
Yeah.
But yeah, so I wanted to touch this week's in wrestling. I know we wouldn't get into it much, but I'm not watching weekly, but we did go to tapings.
Yeah.
And I went out of my way to check out certain matches that were getting rave reviews, and like, okay, is it getting rave reviews because it's a little change of pace? Or is it because they were actually good? And no, they were fucking good.
Yeah. And a key moment of our enjoyment of the Impact tapings was me doing a Gilbert Gottfried impression and you telling me you hated it. You hated every moment. Quote, I hate every moment of it.
Well, I want to make it clear, guys. I didn't hate every moment of it. I only hated about minute 6 to minute 8 of it. And when I was like, you know what? I'd rather blow my dad than listen to a single second of another one of this impression. Was when we had to call it quits.
It did not last that long.
It was.
I can imagine it felt like it, but
it felt like it. Yeah, it absolutely felt like it. It was a death by 1,000 cuts via Gilbert Gottfried impression. But hey, again, thank you. Viv, thank you so much. That was short notice, so thank you so much for making the drive out there and us being able to get together.
Thank you for the invite.
Unfortunately, Zicky's match, there was a little mishap when Zicky elbowed Johnny Swinger in the face, so they had to go directly to the hospital and were there when we left, so we weren't able to hang around. But yeah, I'm sure there will be much more of that in the future.
Did we ever get confirmation about when that one girl got kneed in the face?
Oh, who was it too? Giselle Shaw. I forgot who she threw the knee to.
Because we saw her leave the building out the front door. They only have one door in this fucking place.
Oh yeah, I said that's where everyone left. That's where Mia left.
Yeah, we saw Mia Yim leave. I wanted to say something, but then I didn't want to feel like a creep.
She's come so far. I'll send you a picture from her back in the Shimmer days. She was still training. and I was training with I've been wrestling longer than she has, I think, at the time, or maybe it was right at the same time. But I was training with her because AAW would do shows the night before Shimmer, but Shimmer would use AAW rings, and so I would still go in AAW and in the Shimmer, and like I would do some training with them. Like, again, the hardest I've ever been kicked in my entire life was during just practice and rolling around, and it's by Asuka.
Yeah, I believe that.
Who kicked me so goddamn hard. That's another absolute Kana, is another sweetie. I've had an hour-long conversation with that girl via translator when her English still wasn't any good. She was coming over straight from Japan. She had a match with Hamada that was unreal. But to go back to Mia Yim, yeah, I'll share a picture of me at the Shimmer party. And when I was at the Shimmer parties, I was a super creep in way of like, I knew a lot of the girls, but if they didn't know me, like all my pictures, I would be weird, like,
oh jeez.
because then they would remember me. And I'm like, especially with all my piercings, tattoos, and my personality in general, I'm a hard person to forget. But she's definitely has not like actively tried to forget me. I got to imagine. I was also wearing a Titanic shirt that was just absolutely gorgeous.
Oh yeah.
The story was not to say, "Oh, I'm a weirdo creep." Was not the point of the story. Point of the story was to be she has come so far, man, from where she started to where she is now. Like, she is an unbelievable wrestler. Yeah. Her and her sister are over the years some of the sweetest people I've met, and she's just awesome, absolutely awesome. But yeah, and Joey got a picture with Ultimo Dragon.
Yeah,
let's not forget that. he texted me like 3 a.m. He's like, I want to post this picture so bad and tag the real Ultimo Dragon. I was like, dude, absolutely. Be one of those people who are like, finally met my hero. Yeah. And everyone's like,
does this guy really think this is Ultimo Dragon?
I could talk wrestling forever, and I'm just going to keep fucking rambling. So I suppose hit an outro, and we'll get out of here. Again, thank you guys so much for listening. Thank you for Ryan Kross for jumping on, providing the stories, and Viv, thank you for hanging idly by while two wrestlers again cannot shut the fuck up.
I had an absolute blast listening. I really, really did. And I hope you all did too. Thank you all very much for listening, either on audio only platforms or watching here on YouTube, either in the full show or in the clips. If you watched all the way to the end on the full show, leave a comment down below signifying that you did by telling us your favorite color of M&M. I prefer the blue ones personally. What about you, Mikey?
Oh God, the blue ones are way too sour.
What
you
the
gotta go green.
What the balls? Green?
Yeah.
Okay, wait a minute.
It tastes like pine.
Are you talking about peanut M&Ms or the non-peanut M&Ms? Because you might have a point, but only...
You know what? I'm thinking of Mike and Ike's. You know what? Yeah, I'm thinking of Mike and Ike's.
Okay. We are on totally...
candy.
We're totally on different planets. We're totally different
I don't eat
planets
M&Ms, so I don't know.
Okay, we're on totally... Well, you know what? But
do these teeth look like they're eating candy anymore?
You got a good point. Neither am I even. I'm dieting. I'm down to 359. I was at 424 pounds at my heaviest. I'm down to 359.
Holy moly! Congratulations.
Thank you. You know, and I
am not getting skinnier, and I got to work on it.
Yeah, well, I can't even. I got herniated discs and arthritic ankles, so I can't even really work out all that much. But it's all through dieting and doing.
I was going to say you can't outwork a shitty diet though. Like being able to fast and control what you're putting into your body will eventually take all that weight and pressure off those joints and knees. It's when I'm able to actually work out and feel my best is when I'm dieting to get that weight off so that I can actually do activities. Because man, when I'm as heavy as I have been previously, still eating like an asshole and then trying to run anywhere with these knees, it's a bad time.
But we're about to do it again. We're doing the Midwest goodbye. Where we just say bye and we're going again. I'm so sorry. You plugged all your social medias before, and they've been on the runner. They're all also in the links in the description down below and on the channels. Mine are also on the runner, Twitter, Instagram. I'm barely on Instagram. I'm mostly on Twitter, the opposite of Mikey. I'm also on TikTok. My YouTube channel, Vivian Jade, that's where I do most of my stuff. I read visual novels and do some voice stuff, videos and whatnot when I'm not spending days on end editing these podcasts. They take literal days.
Thank you.
And yes, as Mikey mentioned before, please download and rate and comment these podcasts. They really help us a lot. Give us feedback. Let us know what you think of what we do here. It would help us a lot. But that's all. No more rambling. No more continuing the outro. I have been the trained unprofessional Vivian Jade for my co-host, forever lost, Mikey Wild. Thank you all very much for watching and or listening. Until next week, bye everyone!
Oi!
Kick out at one. Kick out at one.